Introducing my Skeleton Mage build. This is by far the most powerful build I've ever played. This is based heavily on Von Victon's league start video for this league, where he shows us how to start with melee skeletons and then upgrade into Skelly Mages once we have enough money for the Dead Reckoning gem. At the beginning of the league, Dead Reckoning cost me 1.4 Exalts, and they're currently on sale for 4 Chaos, so it's a great time to start this build. I do highly recommend checking out Von Victon's content. It's extremely good, and it's a great place if you want to look for minion builds. One of the key differences between this build and his is once he reaches Mage Skeletons, he takes off zombies. I kept mine because they kept me alive far more than not having them. Minion builds are not for everybody. They're a really unique playstyle where the player does very little and just sort of runs around in circles. This build is extraordinarily defensive. I'm about halfway through level 95, which never happens. And it's the longest I've ever played a league starter. This build is a hybrid build, able to do both clear and bosses. Clear is not the best, but it's also not the worst I've ever played. Where it really comes into its own is its ability to absolutely decimate any boss. So far this league, I've destroyed Shaper, Elder, and Cyrus with no problem at all. I also have 6 Crescents on the way to fighting Maven, which will be my first time destroying her. I did die once to the 4 Shaper Guardians in the Maven map, but that's really because I hadn't played the fight before. And you'll notice I haven't mentioned the new Pinnacle bosses yet because, well, they're not very strong. Offensively, most of our damage comes from the Skelly Mages. Vaal Skeletons is also up most of the time, meaning we have somewhere in the order of 52 skeletons, which is a little ridiculous. Defensively, this build is also very strong. We're almost at block cap, we have full elemental resistances, and about 70% physical damage reduction. We have about 5,000 life and 1,000 energy shield. But our greatest defensive layer comes in the form of rotting flesh that stands between us and the enemy. Some of these taunt. We're also immune to freeze and shock. Mechanically, this build is extraordinarily simple. We run up to a load of monsters, cast our skeletons, and mark any heavy rares with Sniper's Mark. We then just run around in circles, hitting foul summon skeletons if we need more damage, or we need more defenses. And that's it, just rinse and repeat. Overall, this is the second most expensive build I've ever played, coming in at 9 Exalts so far. If you're wondering if you'll be able to afford this, I do have a guide to making currency this league, which I'll link at the end of this video. It's completely set me up for this league to be the most profitable I've ever had. It's also important to note that this build on the melee version can go up to tier 14 without a problem, and this is with no investment at all except what you pick up off the ground. For leveling, check out Von Victon's video, it's really detailed. I did do something slightly different at the start, just to go a little bit faster because I practiced several times and it was a little bit slow to my liking. I do have a quick guide of how I started strong with this build, and I will link that at the end of this video. Onto the gem setups now, and our main 6 link is Vaal Skeleton, linked to minion damage, Spell Echo, Pierce, Volley, and increase critical damage. I do not suggest swapping out Volley when fighting bosses. The extra projectiles seem to all hit the bosses anyway, and they do more damage than the alternatives. Our Bone Offering setup, which gives our minions and ourselves really high block chance, is automatically cast by our wand. The link is Desecrate, linked to Bone Offering, and Life Tap. The order of Desecrate and Bone Offering is very important. Desecrate must come first in the links in the wand. The order of the other two aren't really important. Our minion backup singers are in the helmet, and they are Raise Zombie, Raise Spectre, Minion Life, and Meat Shield. Meat Shield causes the minions to run to our aid and try and taunt the enemy, which is extremely useful for keeping us alive. We're able to have 4 Spectres and 10 zombies, so this is a nice line of defense. We get our first 3 Spectres from Act 7. These can be found in the Ashen Fields, and we have 2 Carnage Chieftains and 1 Host Chieftain. Once we're able to get a 4th Spectre, we get this from the Drox map, and we get Arena Master. In our boots, we have Summon Stone Golem, which is really good for regenerating both our minions' life and our life. We also have Feeding Frenzy, which it triggers often. On top of this, we have Defiance Banner and Flame Dash. In my gloves, I have Zealotry linked to Generosity, so all our minions get the full power of Zealotry and not us. We also have a level 10 Clarity and a Tempest Shield. And then in our shield, we have Determination, Molten Shell, and Enduring Cry. Links are very tight on this build, and so we do have an unset ring for our final gem, which is Sniper's Mark. For our Ascendancy, we are a Necromancer. For our first Ascendancy, we go Mindless Aggression for the movement speed, damage, and cast speed of our minions. Our second Ascendancy is Unnatural Strength, which gives us +2 to level of all minion skill gems, which is very, very strong. Thirdly, we go for Commander of Darkness. This gives us and our allies, i.e. our Skellies, increased cast speed per aura. We and our minions also get 30% increased damage and 30 to elemental resistances. And for our final Ascendancy, we go Mistress of Sacrifice. This makes our Bone Offering apply to us at 50% reduced effect, and also gives us 40% increased skill effect duration, which means our skeletons are up longer. The full passive tree for this will be shown in the Path of Building, which will be in the description below. However, I am showing it on the screen right now. It should be noted that oddly, this build has absolutely no keystones. For our tree, we require at least 3 open jewel sockets. 2 of these are for unique jewels, Dead Reckoning, and Anatomical Knowledge. The third slot will be for a cluster jewel. This should be a medium cluster jewel for minion life, and it must have on it Blessed Rebirth. This causes all our minions to be completely invincible for the first 4 seconds after they've been cast. This prevents them from being one-shot by bosses with a slam as they enter the arena. This happened a lot more often than I expected, and is absolutely essential for this build. The bases for this were 40 chaos at league start. They have come down an awful lot now, and you can craft it yourself. Just hit it with ults until you get it. I did manage to get 2 notables, and for my second notable, I got Dreadmarch. Onto the gear now, and we used 4 unique pieces of gear, which is for our shield, our body armour, our boots, and our amulet. Everything else will be rare. For our shield, we use Lionized Remorse. This gives us an absolute global ton of life, which this build really needs. For our chest piece, we go Flesh Crafter. This is expensive 6-linked. It's dead cheap if you want a 5-link. We will want 4 blues and 2 greens. This chest is best in slot. I did just use a normal rare until I could afford it. It basically causes our minions to gain energy shield based on the amount of chaos resistance they have. If you get over 50% chaos resistance, your minions will instantly die. So if you're casting your skeletons and they suddenly drop dead, you know your chaos resist is too high. The chest also causes chaos damage not to breach the minion's energy shield. The real power here comes from the chest making all our minions deal true damage, i.e. it's not mitigated by resistances while they have energy shield, which is pretty much all the time. Our boots are a nice budget offering, Alberon's Warpath. These boots are pretty crappy except for the fact they give us +1 to maximum number of skeletons, which is really important. Our final unique is the amulet, which is Ashes of the Stars. This drops from the Searing Exarch boss, which I managed to drop. I then sold it for 1.4x and bought it back for 60 chaos a couple of days later. This is best in slot because it gives +1 to level of all skill gems and gives us +27 to quality of all skill gems, which massively boosts both damage and all kinds of utility. We also get 7% increased experience gain of gems. Not very important, but it's all good, and 16 to all attributes. On the amulet, our anointment is really cheap. It's Testudio, which is 1 clear, 1 sepia, and 1 black. This gives us increased block chance and 30 life when we block. I crafted the one myself to cut the cost of the build. The key rolls you want on this are +1 to level of all minion skill gems, minions deal increased damage, and minion cast speed. You also need to craft on it trigger a socketed spell when you use a skill with an 8-second cooldown. Spells triggered this way have 150% more cost. This automates Bone Offering, making it much simpler for us to sustain. For our helmet, we basically want +2 to level of socketed minion gems, and we want to craft on it +1 to maximum number of raised zombies, and +1 to maximum number of skeletons. Other useful things on the helmet would be life, resistances, and energy shield. We're also tight on strength and dexterity, dexterity being the hardest to find, so get at least some on your items. For my gloves, the key roll is minions deal increased damage. On top of this, I got resistances and dexterity. Also, I put a Searing Exarch craft on this of while a unique enemy is in your presence, minions deal 31% increased damage. I also got on the Eater of Worlds one, projectiles pierce an additional target. Pierce drastically increases our damage on really dense maps. Of course, if you can't afford this, just go for a standard set of gloves. It's not a make or break, every little helps though. For our rings, we primarily want life, and any resistances we're missing, and any attributes we're missing. On top of that, you can get something like Energy Shield. In the belt slot, we have Leather Belt or Stygian Vice. You want life and resistances, and, you guessed it, attributes. If you went for the Stygian Vice, then go for the Ghastly Eye Jewel, which gives us minion life, cast speed, or life to ourselves. My flasks are all magic. We have a life flask of alleviation, which gets rid of bleeding. We have a sulphur flask for consecrated ground, a quicksilver for movement speed, a granite flask, and a jade flask. If one of your flask rolls has an armor boost while the flask is active, then that's a bonus. Also try and get chill immunity because this is really annoying. And the last 2 things to look for are remove burning and remove poison. I'm trying to get this video in at under 10 minutes, so we're going to do this next section, which is miscellaneous, as quickly as possible. For the Pantheons, Soul of the Brine King gives us immunity to freeze, and we also go for Soul of Aberath to decrease the duration of ignites. There are only 2 map mods that this character shouldn't run. One is cannot regen, and the other is lower armor and block. For our bandits, kill them all. In conclusion, this is probably the most fun I've had with a build ever. The playstyle does get a bit dull at times, but the power more than makes up for it. If you found this video useful, then please tickle that like button. It will like it more than a zombie loves brains, and that's a lot. If you do have any questions, post them in the comments below, and I will be happy to answer them for you. And with that, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.